New Year's has been drones and bombs. Today has been an air raid alarm as well. That's basically been the life of Ukrainian people for the last few days. The most intensive bombing campaigns in this war. One day was 158 missiles, which we've already covered on stream. And since then, Russia has been just relentlessly bombing cities like Kharkiv and Kiev and many other. Like the whole map of Ukraine, which shows you which areas of Ukraine are endangered for bombing, or basically the entire country is red. The entire country is marked for missile strikes. And someone even gave a interesting theory that Russia is trying to strike F-16 hangars. And one night attack has been estimated to be like over $600 million. Let that sink in. One night attack by Russia has been estimated to cost like $600 plus. On New Year's Eve, Russia launches new strikes on Ukraine. And it also launches strikes past New Year's. It launched strikes just today in Kharkiv, and people had to hide in the corridors, go to the shelters. There's a photo of a wounded mother, hiding her child in the bathtub. You know? Russian airstrikes hit the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv Sunday, injuring at least 28 people and damaging residential buildings, hotels, a kindergarten, and administrative buildings. In the central Ukrainian region of Kirovohrad, another Russian attack Sunday damaged power lines and non-residential building, the region's governor reported. The Kirovohrad region is again under enemy fire. Andriy Raykovik wrote on the Telegram messaging app, adding that air defenses had been engaged on the last day of the year. Ukraine's Air Force said it shot down 21 of 49 Russian drones, so you can see that a lot of them actually went through. In a statement, Russia said it struck the former Kharkiv Palace Hotel and the headquarters of the Ukrainian security service for the Kharkiv region in retaliation for Ukraine's airstrikes on the Russian city of Belgorod Saturday, which is laughable, to be honest, considering that Russia has been just attacking Ukrainian civilians from day one of the invasion. Ukrainian civilians have been a target of bombing. And let's not forget about Bucha and other places like that, right? So Russia, speaking of retaliation, is just laughable. Vyacheslav Gladkov, governor of the Belgorod region, wrote on Telegram that the number of dead in the area has risen to 24 people, with 108 injured and scores of apartment buildings damaged. Oh yeah, the West is really dropping the ball, fake Alec Parker. With the aid, like the Republican Party blocking aid completely in the US, Orban blocking aid in Hungary. Yeah. things are bad, to say the least. Things are pretty bad. Russia requested a meeting Saturday of the UN Security Council on what it called Ukraine's indiscriminate attacks on Belgorod and alleged Ukraine had used cluster bombs. It provided no additional information, and the Associated Press was not able to verify its claims. We unequivocally condemned all attacks on cities, towns, and villages in Ukraine and in the Russian Federation, said Khaled Kiari, Assistant Secretary General in the UN Department of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs. Attacks against civilians and civilian infrastructure violate international humanitarian law, are unacceptable and must end now, he said Saturday. The Security Council also met Friday at the request of Ukraine and 36 other UN member states. Council members condemned Russia's barrage on Kharkiv civilians and infrastructure. And it's happening day after day, mind you. Every single day, cities are being bombed. So again, the claim that it's all in retaliation is just laughable at best. On Friday, Russia launched its biggest air assault since February 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine. Ukrainian officials said Russia killed at least 41 civilians, wounded at least 160, and left an unknown number buried in the rubble across Ukraine in a barrage that included 158 missile and drone attacks. The death toll is still growing from that particular attack. After Russia's massive bombardment on Ukraine Friday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukraine is fighting for its life, which is true. That has also been true from day one of the invasion, to be quite honest. Putin New Year address. In a pre-recorded New Year's address to the nation, Russian President Vladimir Putin praised Russia's united society and stressed that Russia will never back down in its war on Ukraine, even though actually Putin has not used the word Ukraine in his address even once, and has not mentioned the war even once, and has not even used the phrase special operation even once in his New Year's address. Just keep that in mind. He avoided using these terms altogether. Putin's video address, under 4 minutes long, was significantly shorter than the New Year's speech he gave last year, according to state news agency RIA Novosti. The first to see it were residents of Kamchatka Peninsula and the Chukotka region in Russia's Far East, some 9 hours ahead of Moscow. What united us in the fate of the fatherland, a deep understanding of the highest significance of the historical stage through which Russia is passing, the president said while praising Russian citizens' solidarity, mercy, and fortitude. He also lauded Russia's armed forces involved in what the Kremlin has coined its special military operation in Ukraine. But he did not use the term during his address. He did not say war, special operation, or he did not even utter the word Ukraine once in his address. Just, again, keep that in mind. He also, we are proud of you. You're heroes. You feel the support of the entire people, Putin said. Zelensky address. In his video address Sunday, Ukraine, Zelensky said he awarded nearly 700 warriors and medics for service to their country. He also thanked everyone who worked tirelessly on Ukraine's defense. Everyone who uses the new year to complete another fundraiser for the guys on the front line, I thank everyone who works and will work at our defense enterprises 7 days a week, and everyone who will continue to communicate with Ukraine's partners on January 1st, tomorrow, without wasting time, so that next year our country will have as many capabilities as possible to fight the Russian evil, he said. President Zelensky said Saturday that Ukraine is preparing to produce more weapons next year, which, again, we have to remember that Ukraine producing weapons on its own strains Ukraine's budget. So Ukraine really needs aid in order to be able to keep its budget, its economy going, right? Russian casualties in Ukraine. The British Defense Ministry said Saturday in its daily intelligence update on Ukraine that the daily number of Russian casualties in Ukraine, dead and wounded, has risen by almost 300% per day compared with 2022. The increase in the number of casualties was reported to the British Ministry by Ukraine. The increase, the British Ministry said, can be attributed to the degradation of Russia's forces and its transition to lower quality, high quantity mass army since the partial mobilization of reservists in September 2022. It would likely take Russia 5 to 10 years to rebuild its highly trained military units, the report said. If casualties continue at the same rate, the British ministry said Russia will have more than 500,000 personnel killed and wounded by 2025 after 3 years of war. In comparison, the Soviet Union suffered 70,000 casualties in the 9-year Soviet-Afghan war, the ministry said. Some materials for this report came from the Associated Press, Agence France Presse, and Reuters. So yeah, it's the Russian is using its favorite meat wave strategy. I think it needs to be really stressed how Russia's basically been, and many people have warned, by the way, that this was happening, that Russia has been building up its arsenal, missile arsenal, drone arsenal to hit during the winter. And it basically chose now for its series of massive strikes. You know? Especially the one day with 158 thousand missiles, right? It sounds to me that Putin wants to prevent the Russian civilians feel the casualties, yet hide it, and increased bombing might be attempts to push for end of war. Maybe. I think, to me, it feels sort of like they are trying to capitalize on the lack of aid from the West. They're trying to use the lack of aid from the West, and they are trying to strain Ukrainians' budget and defensive capabilities in order to push forward. I think that's what's going on.
So we're talking about Crimea today?
No, we're talking about the recent bombings on Ukraine.
Oh, that has been
the biggest bombings in this war.
Yeah, they've been big on drones too, is what I've been reading. The Shahed loitering munitions.
Yeah, drones, missiles, everything, basically.
Starsky said it was something on the order of 40, 50 drones last night, I think. Or was that the night before? Hang on.
Wasn't it 90 or something?
It might have been overall. I have a feeling that they are waiting for American money to run out, and they're going to try to exhaust.
Well, the American money has already run out.
Yes. Well, they're going to try to exhaust it so that you do not 35
Right,
intercepted direct
because like the last badge has already been given from the U.S. for the last year, and you know what's happening in Congress.
Yes, so they've screwed the pooch pretty ridiculously, which, to be honest, was not unexpected when they had the problem with the speakership.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's
Republican-
also yeah. Go on.
Republicans were barely able, like, we were sitting there watching that happen, and they couldn't pick a speaker, and all of a sudden they pulled this jackass out of nowhere, and no one's quite entirely sure what he's up to, but it's pretty clear that he's going to let Ukraine rot so that Matt Gaetz and Donald Trump can score some political points.
Yeah. The worst part is that it's not just the U.S. Like the EU is also faltering with aid, as you probably know. At the same
Yes.
time, yeah.
However, I have read that India and Pakistan have stepped up in producing 155 millimeter shells and selling them, even more remarkably, selling them to Ukraine cheap.
That's good. Is that enough? That's the question.
Probably not,
Yeah.
to be perfectly frank, unless aid continues and there's a very public
Yeah.
declaration of it.
Like in the EU, Orban has blocked aid basically, and the EU is looking to give aid outside of outside of Orban, but that would mean downsizing the aid from 50 billion to 20, which is, as you can see, not ideal to say the least, right? Like,
No, not
good enough. That's always the question. Retirement money, you know?
Yeah, it's a downstream effect, right? So Ukraine gets weapons from Europe and the United States, and they don't necessarily aren't paying for them up front, so they have money to spend on other things,
Mm-hmm.
like keeping their society functioning. We
Exactly,
had an
yeah.
article. There was an article in the middle of summer. I have to remember. I need to find that again about how much aid we were putting into the Ukrainian agricultural sector, right? Which has obviously been heavily disrupted by the war.
Mm.
So Orban obviously has been a problem for a while, and he's just Russian with a couple extra steps, really, when you get down to it.
Damn.
I'm not entirely certain why he's still welcome at the European Party.
My mom got really angry with Orban today.
Yeah,
My mom was like, what an idiot. Doesn't he understand that if Ukraine loses, then sooner or later, a friend of Putin or not, Russia will just roll over him like anyone else? You know?
yeah, no, that's a huge problem, and it goes into Russia's
Like, it won't save him when Russia comes. It won't save Hungary when Russia comes for it.
Yeah, it's a long-term problem. It's been Russia's long-term strategy to put sympathetic ears in right-wing governments across Europe and now the United States. And they've done a really good job of that because we've refused to tackle that.
Yeah.
Do you know how the EU Council positions mostly filled with People's Party Alliance? Yes. We've done a very bad job tackling that. We did a very bad job addressing that back in 2016 when it was very clear what was happening. There was a couple articles that came out at the time that talked about how Barack Obama wanted to publicly address the Russian problem, but Mitch McConnell stopped him. So I'm until we get into a spot where we're willing to address Russia's behind-the-scenes nonsense and their liminal warfare efforts to screw with our countries, this is probably going to be a reoccurring problem. I don't see I don't see aid being any easier. now than it was back before Congress took a break either.
Yeah, but that's so where does that leave us exactly? What is Ukraine abandoned to lose?
It depends. What we don't Here's what we have done. We have basically sent them all of our old stock, and then we buy new stock to replace it. And we haven't quite sent it all yet, so they can maybe finagle a way to send more money. Like, obviously, they just did that with Israel, much to my chagrin.
Yeah.
Because Israel doesn't necessarily need weapons to beat up on people who don't have weapons.
Because what? Was my mom right when she said bitterly that war is coming and Russians are just gonna kill us all?
I don't think so. We still have plenty of our own weapons. We just don't have weapons to give to other people.
Well, wait, what do you mean by we?
The United States, and maybe Poland, I think, is still pretty well stocked with weapons too, as I understand it.
But is it enough? Again.
I don't think necessarily that Russia would have a very easy time getting out of Ukraine and into Europe proper, the rest of Europe. They had a very hard time getting into Ukraine.
Because Ukraine is a pretty long country, isn't it?
Yes.
And Poland in comparison is like a plump little ball in the shape of a shield. Yeah.
A big giant shield, yes. Also, it's full of Polish people who don't like Russians much.
True. I don't like...
The problem is that not that Russia can take over the world or take over Europe. The problem is that Russia can do a considerable amount of damage while they're pretending to take over Europe.
But they only want to take what they had in their empire. They don't want the entirety of Europe. They just want what they had before.
You're right. But the idea is that it's supposed to entail fighting all of Europe. So...
Well, that is... And this is my inner skeptic entering the picture. That is assuming that the entire Europe is willing to fight for places like Poland.
Yes. The idea really is that you have to... What's the word? The idea is that everyone has to be willing to pitch in together. And that was the idea at the end of World War II.
Right. That was not the idea at the start of World War II, if we remember.
It was not, no. As for Ukraine, I hope something happens soon that gets them more aid, like anything, because they're not going to give up, obviously.
Yeah.
And Russia can just keep grinding them because they do not care how many Russians die in the process.
Yeah. And of course, there's the fact that less Russians will die if Ukrainian forces will start running out more and more of ammunition.
Yes.
Because that's been a thing. That's been already a thing that certain operations had to be sort of cancelled or withheld or limited because of lack of ammunition. That's been very recent.
Well, yes. The other one is, I don't know if you read the news the last couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
They started talking about the summer counteroffensive.
Mm-hmm.
And how America assisted in that with war game planning.
Right.
And we just did a shit job. We gave them this plan. We gave Ukraine this plan that was contingent upon them having effective ways to clear minefield. And
then give the effective ways to clear minefields?
And fighter aircraft that we didn't give them, that they didn't have.
Right. Well, that's been the problem from the very beginning of the war, hasn't it? That the aid has been just dripping, dripping, dripping.
That has been a problem, but like the American staff officers that were involved in that should have known better. Should have gone, we don't have these things, we now need to
Do the
we now
thing in this plan,
yeah, we
yeah. This plan
have to
is
adjust
not
the plan
doable.
accordingly. So like there was a conversation that I had with the commander a couple weeks back.
Oh,
Is like, I don't know why this had to have happened. Commander McMillan from formerly of In Time, who now hangs out with us from time to time at Two Guys Talking History.
right.
He and I both went like, I'm not entirely certain how this happened. Like we screwed the pooch there.
It's ridiculous.
So yeah,
And of course, Ukraine gets then the blame. Oh, the counter-offensive have failed. Guess Ukraine's not as hot business as we thought, so I guess.
so it's harder to give them support. But the
Yeah.
reality is, Ukraine did a masterful job of adapting their strategy and tactics.
Yeah.
It
And-
didn't succeed because they didn't have the necessary tools, but they didn't stop fighting.
Yeah, and it's doing an amazing job with the limited resources it has at its disposal. That's also a thing that's really worth remembering at all times. That the aid has been dripping, dripping. That some units have the weaponry, but some units don't, you know?
Or weapons get backstopped. For example, the American M1A1 tanks spent all summer in Poland for some reason.
Oh,
So the entire counteroffensive was carried out with Leopards from Germany.
right. I mean, Poland gave a
and-
lot of tanks. Poland gave a massive... I think Poland gave more tanks than any other country.
Yes, the only thing that we got for some reason, they got the Bradleys, but they didn't get the tanks. So they had the Leopards that came in from all over Europe, and like, there's a refurbished time on those too, because a lot of them have been sitting in storage and haven't been used.
Yeah.
So like, it's one of the things that needs to be talked about is that we need to get our heads in the game and decide to fight this war and win it. If we're not going to fight it,
Yeah.
at the very least, Ukraine the weapons they need to win the war. Because I think what happened is people believed the idea that Russia was going to win very quickly. And when that didn't happen, nobody stopped and said, well, wait, now what?
Yeah.
Because we were prepared to support an insurgency, and now we have to support a full-scale war.
And the truth is that if Russia, well, not, it's not an if anymore. Russia is in the war economy, right? So,
Yeah.
since Russia is in war economy, Europe should basically answer in kind and also at least partially move to a war economy. That should happen.
Yes. Although, to be fair, I've been reading about Russia's production woes, and they're having a very hard time putting out modern weapons.
Yeah, but
for
it's still a war economy. You know, they still can outproduce Europe that's in peace mode.
For example, Russia put out a triumphant report that they're now able to double their production run of Su-57s, their most modern fighter aircraft,
Yeah.
from 6 to 12.
Yeah, but still, the European Union is not doing much better.
No.
And it should, as the Polish new foreign minister, foreign affairs minister said, we are basically 20 times richer than Russia together. But if we just stay in a peaceful mode, then Russia will just outproduce us.
Yeah. And Russia is still getting some of the materials they need to produce missiles.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've mentioned this even today. They still get
so-
weapons parts. Yeah.
And now that they think that the aid is going to dry up, they're going to step up that usage again.
Yeah, and
Because they tried to do this.
the sanctions are ineffective as well. They're being broken left and right.
Right. They're thinking. Sorry, I'm looking at something. No, the Russians are thinking that they're going to be able to get around and break Ukraine this winter the way they tried to do last winter.
Yeah.
And that's just unfortunate because a lot of people end up dying who shouldn't.
Yeah, already we have more and more casualties, like in these um, massive bombing campaigns that have been happening over the last few days. Like the anti-air defense system is doing its job, but it's even that's not intercepting everything. And even when it does, the debris that also falls from the destroyed drones and stuff causes damage. And
There's no reason to believe that even the best air interception defense system in the world will get everything.
yeah,
It's just not possible.
it
And
already
also,
so far it's been doing an amazing job at at intercepting basically everything. But now that it has ramped up to this level, it just doesn't.
yeah, ammo is going to become an issue.
Yeah,
Missiles,
yeah.
birds, things like that will start to become an issue.
Yeah. So
It's just a question of how long. Like, the question is, can Russia sustain the bombardment? Which they probably can, even with losing another ship full of munitions. Haha. That's one of the things I think that was underrated this year is just how badly the Ukrainians have mauled the Russian Black Sea Fleet. And for their part, Turkey is sticking to their guns. So
yeah.
Russia's not getting reinforcements anytime soon, at least there.
Well.
The other thing I saw is I think some of the first.
Oh yeah, there's also one thing that I've read just like yesterday, which is also a big thing for Ukraine, negative thing for Ukraine, I might add. The conscription thing, that it's gonna be more like the term used was that a compromise version of the conscription plan is going to be implemented.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, to be honest.
Yeah, but that basically just means that less people are gonna get conscripted, which means that there's gonna be less people fighting. So that's considering all other things already also negative.
If you listen to Hetman, quite send Ukraine back to.
Sorry?
If you listen to Hetman, he's quite willing to send Ukrainians who came here to the United States as refugees back to Ukraine to fight, which is not great, but we'll deal with that in time. There's a problem. They're gonna start running low on manpower. It's inevitable. Russia's probably going to declare a general mobilization this year, I think.
Right.
After the presidential election.
Which also is like a big damn. What if Trump wins?
Our presidential the Russian presidential election.
The Russian one, yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
In March, I think.
Okay.
March. What if Trump wins is a terrifying prospect for all of us here.
Yeah, I know. In the world. All of us here in the world.
Yes.
But, so what do you think of the Putin New Year's thing? That he was super quiet. He didn't use the word Ukraine. He didn't use the word war. He didn't use the word special operation. He just avoided all these.
Well, I think Russians are getting tired of it in a certain way, and they don't want to hear about it, which is why he said something. It's why I don't think he's going to do a mobilization till after the election.
Right.
Because he doesn't want to rock the boat.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I can pronounce it the Polish way, Putin.
Poutine is a Canadian dish with French fries and gravy.
Putin, that's how you say it in Polish, Putin. Putin.
So yeah, it's going to be tricky for Putin to balance that for the moment.
Yeah, but things are much more tough for
But if he
Ukraine.
doesn't, yeah, but if Ukraine doesn't get additional aid, it's not going to matter. He has the time. He doesn't. He is not under the gun in the way that Ukraine is at this.
Yeah,
It is a dire situation.
yeah. And
Um,
that's really, really, really bad.
yeah, it's a very dire situation. Almost as dire as if Trump wins. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not looking. It's going to be a long year. The other thing that I found out is Lauren Boebert, you know, the American Congresswoman,
Mm-hmm.
best known for giving people hand jobs in theaters. She's trying to change her district, so she's going to be running in a new district in Colorado. Guess what district that is?
What district that is?
It's my district, damn it.
Oh, God. Sorry.
So I'm going to have a busy year.
Yeah. Arkael loves Putin. Arkael. What is this?
Poutine, you know, the French fry dish with the curds and the gravy.
Oh. Putin. I see. But yeah, things are... And things have been really tough as well for civilians. With the day after day, bombing. There was bombing today as well, of course.
Yes, it was. It was basically more of the same. I check the news because the Ukrainian news basically comes out when I wake up at this point.
Right. I have this Polish page that just sort of updates the stuff in real time. There's a list
Yes.
of happenings and it just updates in real time.
Yeah, it looks like they tried to hit Kyiv pretty hard last night again,
Yeah.
and they're going to try again tonight.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're trying again now as we speak because it is that time.
It is 1:43 o'clock, yeah.
It-
So it's 2:43 in
Yeah.
Kyiv. It's just 1 hour ahead, right? From
Pardon
Poland.
me?
From Poland.
Uh, it's 2 a.m. It's 2:44 a.m. in Kyiv.
Yeah, so it's 1:44 in Warsaw. So it's 1 hour ahead.
1:44 in
Warsaw,
Okay.
yeah.
And it's
They did
5:40
hit Odessa, and Odessa sort of the citizens of Odessa sang a song.
Yeah, they hit Odessa too.
Yeah, it was hit. Yeah. The whole of Ukraine is red and endangered by missile strikes. The whole map is like sort of red, you know?
Yeah, actually, let's go turn on the conflict map and see. I haven't looked at that today. Conflict map Ukraine. Sevastopol got attacked, but that's Russia. Heavy explosions in Kherson, that would be Ukraine.
Yeah. Kharkiv gets attacked as well.
Kharkiv, Belgorod.
Belgorod is in Russia.
Belgorod is in Russia proper. Although they've
Yeah.
been shooting back at Belgorod because Russia's been shooting at them. Which isn't great, but I get it.
Actually, Russia said that they destroyed the whole Palace Hotel thing because they retaliated against Belgorod. Which, from Russia, it just sounds so comical.
Well,
Yes, Lviv had hits, yeah. Lviv had hits. In Lviv, museum was hit. I think a kindergarten as well. A few...
did they just get more annoying with these goddamn ads? They're everywhere. Jesus.
So yeah, Lviv was hit as well. Also, Poland has lifted its F-16s to the air by the border.
Yeah,
After a
that's not
missile,
unsurprising.
sort of entered Poland's airspace and turned back. Poland should just give Ukraine F-16s.
We should give them F-35s and then be, oh no, what happened? The Russian Air Force got blown up.
True. I don't know.
It's so sad.
Maybe it's short-sighted on my side, but instead of stockpiling new gear, Poland should give it to Ukraine to fight Russia.
It's probably better from the Polish point of view to be fighting Russia in Ukraine than fighting Russia
in Poland, right? Probably, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what good it does to stockpile new modern equipment and not do anything than just, I don't know, give it to Ukraine, to be quite honest, you know?
While the Russian army rolls up to your border.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It feels weird to me that Poland gears itself up instead of gearing Ukraine up. At least Sikorski, yeah?
It's like the United States probably have a statutory obligation to maintain a certain amount of readiness. So even if we wanted to, we can't just dump all of our weapons on you.
Yeah, but then again, the US has more than enough not to have to do so.
Right.
But I don't know. At least you know Sikorski, right? You recognize the name Sikorski, right?
Yes.
Yeah, at least he said that Poland, during his visit, his first foreign visit to Kiev, he said that Poland will become the safe production hub for weaponry that will be sent to Ukraine. And that he is surprised that the old government didn't sort of arrange that before.
Well, the old government was somewhat divided in loyalty to Poland, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, it was a wild government.
Like, they very publicly did not like Russia, but still depended on Russia.
Yeah. And ruined relations with Ukraine, let's not forget.
There was, yes, that, unfortunately. Well,
which the new government has to now fix.
Yeah, fortunately, I think Ukraine's going to be very receptive to having.
Yeah, I think so. It should be, I don't know. Poland, at the end of the day, is also a pretty poor country, you know, so Poland will not be able to single-handedly
arm Ukraine.
Yeah.
Any effort to make war against Russia has to be a
team effort, yeah, by Europe.
There's not enough. It's a question of size, and no country that's big enough to do the job. On their own. Even France and Germany both historically failed to do the job.
Yeah. And I mean, it all goes back to my favorite topic. You know what my favorite topic is, right?
Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth?
Yeah. It all, of course, goes back to that. Like how the Kiev professor of history said that if the Lithuanian nobles were smarter and during the formation of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth fought for their businesses and their rights, we would have had a Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth from basically day one. And that sort of big behemoth country was a very important counterforce to Russia, and that we would have had a little bit of a different situation now on our hands.
Unfortunately, it's too late.
A bit, yeah.
They got Germany instead.
Yeah, a bit too late, yeah.